Hey y'all, welcome to the Moving with Millennials podcast with your favorite millennial realtors.
We are 4 top producing agents in the DFW area, and we are ready to share the good, bad, and the real life of real estate.
Whether you're thinking about getting into real estate, already an agent, or just curious about what your agent really does, join us.
Tune in every Wednesday to see what it's really like to be on this side of the transaction.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Moving with Millennials. We are back for our second episode of season 3, and today we are going to be talking about budgeting to buy your home. Kind of like the different costs, the things that you don't really know to look for or to plan for. Now you'll know.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, I just need my down payment. But there's lots of other things.
It's an important part for sure.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, going to be a good episode if you are planning to buy. People are always trying to budget or I guess plan ahead. Mm-hmm. So I would say if you're looking to buy in the next 6 months, you can go ahead and start budgeting right now for this. So, and it could get you to a place that you need to be. And I think people are also going to be surprised that they think they need more in funds to buy a house than you actually do.
Yeah, so. For sure.
I guess this is kind of for me today then.
Are you budgeting to buy right now?
I think so.
I love it.
Yeah. It's coming up.
I think so. Yeah.
That's exciting.
All right, well then you can give us your take on what you think on these fees.
There will be a quiz at the end.
Yeah. Oh God.
So
get ready.
Okay, so let's start in we've got all the fees here, and we're going to break this down. This is literally going to go into super detail on it. So the very first thing that you need to budget when it comes to buying a home is going to be that down payment. So like Maggie said, most people know about the down payment, but how much exactly is that down payment going to be? So it varies. Yeah. It depends on what you feel comfortable with, but there are all sorts of loans. There's 3 main loans that you can get, and so you can put anywhere between 0% to 20% down. You can put more than 20% down, but there are options for 0% down as well.
Yeah.
And this is why it's important to talk to a lender. They will look over your finances, give you a pre-approval, and they will also be able to tell you, hey, you qualify for 3% down, or they'll kind of talk over numbers with you and help you get through that.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that. I have clients or, people, it's their first time, so they kind of ask me, how much am I going to be putting down? I'm like, oh, homie, I don't know that. Your lender, who I'm about to introduce you to, is going to be able to go over all that with you. We will not give you a majority of these numbers. They're going to come from another source during the transaction.
I feel like we can give estimates,
Correct.
But definitely talk to a lender.
You need to know the budget that you're approved for before we start looking, before we set up your search, before we start looking at homes, before you start sending us links to listings that you like. I have to know to best serve you. We need to know what is your budget.
Yeah. Right. I feel like we should have started this episode talking about why should you budget to buy? Why do you need to talk to a lender first and then break it down? So that kind of dives into that. So let's talk about the different types of down payments, the main ones. So like I said, there's 3 different kinds. So VA, which is meant for if you served in the military, you're veteran. That one is the 0% down. There's also what's called a USDA loan. These are more rural areas, and you have to be buying in a certain area to qualify. So that one is also 0% down.
The only way that I remember that is land and rural is I think of USDA beef. Does anyone ever heard that term? It's a certain thing at the grocery store. They have a little logo on saying it's USDA beef.
Oh, yeah, now I know what you're talking about.
So that is the only way.
So he thinks cows and country.
Correct, cows and country.
Smart.
I'm like, and I don't often have those.
Yeah,
so.
I've never done a USDA.
I have done 2. It is very hard to find in Dallas, in the Metroplex, land that qualifies for USDA. This goes back to your lender. Your lender knows what areas
there's a map
which is the map. And so if you're going that route, we need to know that XYZ are the only locations we can look in because it is hard to find in Dallas right now.
Well, and I see a lot of because obviously a lot of new construction is building out in those more rural areas now, they're building subdivisions. You will see where new construction homes are you could buy with 0% down. It's because there's that USDA loan. But also keep in mind, you have to qualify for these loans. So not everyone qualifies for VA, obviously. Not everyone qualifies for USDA, just like the other loans. Yeah. So, and then the 2 others, Maggie.
The other 2 are conventional, which is 3% down, or anywhere from 3 to 5% down.
So so explain the 3%.
What do you mean, 3%? 3% of the sales price?
No. So the 3% conventional loan is only good for first-time home buyers.
Yes. Well, not necessarily.
In Texas, as long as you are a first-time home buyer in Texas.
You're considered a first-time home buyer if you haven't owned in 2 years.
That's
your workaround.
Yeah.
I think I'm I'm trying to waive my 2-year mark.
Yeah. Okay.
Of being removed from the title of my old home.
Okay. Yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
So if not, then you need to put minimum 5% down on a
conventional
loan. And then there's FHA, which is a government insured loan, and that's minimum 3.5% down.
Yep. So kind of the big myth is that you have to have 20% to down.
That's like one of the main misconceptions, I think. So many
you don't. You do have to pay what's called MIP, which we'll talk about in a minute, but you don't have to put 20% down.
Or even 10%. You can do that 3% or 3.5%, which is so great. Or if you're super lucky, you qualify for VA or USDA and you don't have to bring anything to the table other than your closing costs.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and even if you are VA, if you qualify for home or down payment assistance, you can use that for your closing costs. I've had VA buyers like get money back at closing that have utilized that.
I've also had clients that can easily afford a monthly payment but maybe haven't saved up enough for the down payment. So it's like they can get approved if they're using like gift funds or something else. So it's like maybe even if you don't have that money necessarily saved up, there may be an option like if you've got a good like a portion of it but maybe you're just a little bit shy. A lender can also help you find kind of workarounds or ways that maybe we can get you to that number.
For sure.
So even if you think you're a little bit shy, but like you're like my rent term or like lease term is coming out, but I'm a little bit shy of that like 5% or even the 3% mark, go ahead and talk to us and we can get you in contact with the lender because there may be a way to help.
For sure.
I think it's so important to mention right now, we do not get a kickback from the lender.
Yeah.
We tell you to use our lenders because they're people that we know, love, and trust.
And know they can close.
Like, my lender has done miracles for Pat and I, and I've seen him just consistently do great things. And we all have that one person that we go to. So when we tell you to please use our lender, it's not because we're making a kickback from them. That's illegal. It's because we just want you in good hands.
I barely even get invited to the Christmas party, honestly.
No, it's so important. Communication too.
That's the big
someone
deal.
we work well with, we know can close your file. It's just a lender is a big part of your transaction.
And
huge.
I honestly have two, so it's like I try to match them like depending on like the client's personality because the two that I have that are both really good, they have different personality types and they work a little differently. They both communicate great and they both get the files done. But you can always get from A to B, but you can go one way or another. That's how I think about them.
Yeah.
And so I kind of try to match my clients to them personality wise.
Okay, cool. So we've done down payment. So 0% to 20%. You can bring more than 20% if you want for a lower payment. But what about title services?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, let's go over the next part, which is closing costs and prepaids, because that includes things like title services and appraisal fee. So we're going to break down exactly what closing costs you are paying for and how it equals what I always tell clients. I don't know what you guys tell them, like, because they always like, well, give me a ballpark rule of thumb. And I'm like, I don't know. I say 3%.
I do too.
Because that may be high or conservative, but I'd rather be conservative than not and them have more funds, right? Well, and I will talk about this other thing that's not even on here, but 3% is kind of what I tell people. So let's break down what the title fees are exactly. So the first one is your owner's title policy. So this, which in a transaction, things are negotiable, right? Like who pays what. Some of them are negotiable, some of them aren't. You know, lender fees that you have to pay as a buyer aren't usually negotiable. But something like the owner's title policy for the title company to ensure the title, that is negotiable, but it can be what's considered a buyer's expense, and the cost for that
is going to depend on the sales price.
And the cost is based on the sales price, but it's set. So the cost isn't negotiable.
Who pays
but
it
who
is.
pays it is negotiable.
Right.
That's what I want to clarify that. So like you can't go back to the title company and be like, hey, that's a little high. Can we do it for a little less? That part's not negotiable.
And it's decided on when the contract is submitted and upon execution. You can't like 3 days after execution be like, oh, well, I want the seller to pay for that now. And that's not going to work.
It's one of the terms.
And the titles policy, like Maggie was saying, it is it depends, the price that you're going to be paying for the title policy depends on the sales price. It's this formula that no one can understand it or no one can give you. There's actually a calculator. It's called the title policy calculator. You can actually Google it and find it, but we have calculators that help us determine exactly how much that title policy is going to be based off of the sales price.
And you can have the seller, or we can negotiate the seller to pay it, the buyer to pay it, or split it, which in the crazy market, it was pretty normal for buyers to pay for it, which honestly, I think it makes sense because it's the owner's title policy.
I like to see it the opposite.
But
I see it the opposite too.
Now we're seeing sellers.
I think since the seller is trying to sell you something, they should prove
insuring.
that they should prove that they have have full ownership and that you will too moving forward.
Right.
I kind of think it's on them.
Yeah, I do too, because it's like I'm like trying to wipe my hands clean, and so here's some extra insurance saying it's all yours.
Yeah. Also, as a note, it's different than like homeowners insurance. This is, although it's called like they call it like title insurance or title policy, it is a one-time fee. So it is part of your closing cost, but you'll never pay it again.
Yeah. I know. It's always confusing on the closing disclosure, or how they the verbiage.
Yeah. So the scenario we're going to give you guys, actually, we're going to pretend like you are buying a house for $400,000. I feel like that's a pretty standard first-time home buyer price point right now. Putting 5% down, and you have an interest rate of 5.25. So that's kind of the scenario we're running. So with that in mind, at a $400,000 price point, you're looking at about $2,400 for that title policy, just to give you kind of a rough estimate there. So, okay, what other title fees do we have?
So the other ones are all going to be, I just call them like admin type costs.
Yeah, like
so
MISC.
Yep. So this is where, the title company is paying a lawyer to do the document preparation. So that's like a certain fee. Some of these fees will vary from title company.
Yeah.
They're pretty standardized, pretty close.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like document prep, the tax deletion of endorsement, EPA endorsement, filing fees, messenger fees. So all those are just kind of like, again, like admin type costs. And so those are about another $1,000 to $1,300 in this, like the scenario that we're using.
Yeah.
And I would say that across the board is pretty standard.
Pretty standard. Even, I don't know if you guys have noticed on your closing disclosures, there's always like a $2 charge.
Yeah.
Yes.
The state of Texas, they like to get their $2 every transaction. They charge like $2, $3.
Yeah, it's like the filing fee or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So like Jake said, probably about $1,000 I think is pretty normal for those miscellaneous title fees.
Yeah.
So even if you aren't paying the title policy, be expecting to have about $1,000 in title fees.
For sure. But then there's lender fees, and these are also going to vary by lender, but these are pretty standard what we're going to go over. There's origination fees, the appraisal fee, which will be required if you're using financing, a credit report, survey, miscellaneous lender fees, and if there's a WTI.
I don't know why that's on here, but
Yeah.
That's going to, I don't know why that's on here. Either the pest inspection, the WDI report is required for VA loans, but
I think I put this on here just kind of again a scenario.
FHA can sometimes call for it too.
Yeah, true.
So the origination fee, they actually calculate this. This is usually 1% of the loan amount. So in this scenario of you putting 5% down and a $400,000 house, you're going to be paying about $3,800 for that origination fee. So this is what basically the lender charges in order to get your loan put together. Appraisal fee, you are responsible for paying for the appraisal fee. This can either be paid up front. So we're going to talk about some out of cost or out of closing type costs here in a little bit. But appraisal, depending on the lender you're working with, is either going to charge you during the transaction when the appraisal is ordered. I know some lenders will carry the fee, like they'll basically pay it, and then at closing, they'll get reimbursed from you and charge you that appraisal fee at closing. So depending on the lender. Usually they pay it up front.
Yeah, same.
I just know one lender I have that they still do it that way.
So like what happens if the contract is terminated?
They eat the cost.
The lender does?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They eat the cost.
Yeah, because it's like $500, sometimes more if you do a rush order.
Yeah.
And if it's a meets and bounds, sometimes it's more expensive.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this is just a really good estimation.
Yeah. Credit report, so cost a lender about $75. Oh, by the way, appraisal, that's going to cost you, I would say anywhere between like $350 to $500.
Yep.
And then like Maggie said, you could pay extra for like a rush. So if we need to get it back quicker or something like that, you may be paying an additional like $250 to get it back even quicker. Credit report, so this is for the lender to pull your credit, about $75. That's what it costs them literally to pull it, so they do that as well. Survey, and some people are like, but I can pull it for free, on whatever.com.
A totally different kind.
And I'm like, yes, you can pull your consumer report, but this is a totally different, like Jake was saying, this is totally different, that they have to pull like an official like credit report, and it's totally different from your consumer report.
Right.
Then survey. So survey is going to be anywhere, and this varies. Again, if the sellers already have a survey, then you may not even need a new survey. But in case you do, and I always put it in my estimates as if you were going to buy a new one, you're looking at anywhere from like $350, maybe $500 for a survey.
And if it's a meets and bounds, like one of mine recently, it was like $1,200, on a half acre. And so like acreage So yeah, it's gonna vary.
Yep.
Land, like if it's land only, like I have a land listing coming up, and it'd be like $1,500.
Yeah, I would say 500 standard for like a single family,
Yep.
traditional house. And then you have some miscellaneous lender fees. We put in here about $650, and then like Maggie said, if a pest inspection is needed, that's about $75. So all in for lender fees, in this scenario, you're looking at about $5,300 for your closing cost. Now let's talk about, this is something that people don't quite understand as much, that are part of your closing costs or what you pay or what you bring to the table. Already we have our down payment, so we talked about that, anywhere from 0 to 20% usually is what people do. You have your title fees, we gave you those, which again we're equaling up to about $3,700 in this scenario because you were paying that title policy. And then you have your lender fees, which equal about $5,300, which is everything we just explained. Then you have another part of your closing cost, or what you bring to the table, and it's your prepaid costs. So who wants to explain what prepaid costs exactly are?
So you're paying them basically not ahead of time, because that sounds so simple. So like prepaid costs, like, so think of it, these are things that are going to go into your escrow account. So it's like you're paying kind of to start that escrow account.
Yeah.
So in this example, it's like, it's 14 months of insurance. You're going to pay 3 months of taxes, and then if you were closing like today in this example, middle of the month, 15 days of interest.
Yeah.
So that part will fluctuate depending on where you're closing or what day you're closing. Sorry.
Yeah.
And that 14 months of insurance in this example is $3,173.33. The 3 months of taxes adds up to $2,730. And then the 15 days of interest is $819.86. So total prepaid costs, again, on top of your down payment, on top of the closing costs, is going to be $6,723.19.
Yep. So kind of like Jake was saying with the insurance. So your insurance, you're in your escrow account, you're in your monthly payment, which we're going to break down a monthly payment for you guys here in a minute. But that insurance that's being collected at closing, goes into the escrow account, and your lender is actually going to be responsible for paying both the insurance when it becomes due each year and your taxes when those become due each year. The reason that the insurance the lender is collecting this upfront now is because instead of you paying monthly, it's actually cheaper for you to pay an annual insurance amount. They're going to go ahead and pay for that the day that you close on it, because obviously you need insurance the day you close on your property. So with insurance, you always pay ahead of the year. So you pay the day and then you pay for that following year after you've paid for it. With taxes, you actually pay ahead and they collect it into an escrow account. And then once the taxes become due for that year, you pay at the end of the year. So hopefully that makes a little sense. So that's why they're collecting 14 months worth of insurance and only 3 months of taxes. Because really the 14 months, obviously there's only 12 months in a year. 12 months of that is going to go towards what's due right then and there to give you the first year of insurance. And then they're collecting 2 months, technically part of that, to kind of give your escrow a surplus. Because of course it's always better that you have a little more than less, and they don't have to come to you and say, hey, you're short on your escrow account. And then same thing with the 3 months. While taxes may not be due at the time of closing, they're going ahead and putting those 3 months into that escrow account. So again, you have a surplus for your taxes. And then once your monthly payment, you're making that, obviously a portion of that is going to keep going into the escrow, so you have plenty of funds for when they become due. So that's an explanation on those prepaid costs. Okay, so all in, what are we bringing to closing?
All right, so you have the fixed costs. This is for a $400,000 house. 5% down, 5.25% interest rate.
Yep.
We're doing $9,120.23 in fixed costs, $6,723.19 for prepaid costs. Your total, which adds total, is $15,843.42. That plus your down payment of that 5%, which is $20,000, is $35,843.42, and that is your total bring it to closing.
Yep.
cost.
So you're looking at about $36,000 to bring to closing. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
So that kind of breaks down what you're looking at for closing costs. Then let's talk about, was there anything else on closing costs? I think that breaks it down pretty well. I think also I'm a visual person, so if it's helpful, we can put some of these numbers into a breakdown for them.
Do you guys want to talk about property taxes now and how they vary, or at the end?
I was into it as part of payment.
Yeah, I was going to, I think let's do that at the end. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the out-of-pocket or things that you need to be budgeting for that are not going to be part of your closing costs. So we have at least two on
I feel like
here.
we should have been like, but wait, there's
Yeah,
more.
and these are paid, before closing.
During
Yeah,
the
as if
transaction.
$36,000 isn't enough.
I know.
Right. Okay, so once you go under contract, you will get an inspection, or hopefully get an inspection, and that's anywhere from $300 to, I don't know, $500,
$600.
Yeah.
I would say even
well,
maybe $700 right now
depending
too.
on what you get.
Ours is not 700.
Yeah, ours.
Okay, it's not.
It just changed to 400, but it was
Yeah.
350 for a long
Yeah.
time.
Well, I'm thinking if you have a
just
pool
gave me $300
and
today.
What?
Oh, Maggie
Nothing.
was like,
Huh? I didn't hear you. Okay, you said
Nothing.
300.
Nothing.
Okay, so that
Small.
yeah.
I'll
So
tell you
you
later.
okay.
and it's gonna vary depending on the size and like the type of foundation, all of that.
It also can vary, like multifamily, like condo property
Yeah.
versus or
Right.
townhouse versus
For sure.
single family detached.
If
So
there's a pool,
there's a lot that
yeah.
goes into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you definitely want to pay that
I
up
would
front.
never, speaking for the four of us, we will never let you buy a house without getting a home
Or
inspection.
advise not
Advise
to.
Yeah.
you, sorry,
Yeah.
advise you to buy a home without
Yeah.
I don't
a
think
home
I've ever
inspection.
had someone. I don't think I've ever had someone not get a home inspection.
I've never.
Oh, I actually, me either.
But maybe if I did, it would have been an investor.
I've had a new
I've
build.
always
I've
had-
had them skip a new build, like an inspection.
Oh, well, yeah, I have
third
had
party
that.
inspection, but
I
not
think that's the only.
a used home.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of mine have gotten inspections.
I was gonna say the other thing for inspection to keep in mind is that the general home inspector, I would still I would still recommend like hiring a separate inspector. Like if you have something like septic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or something
Oh,
that's
for
super
sure.
specialized. Even if that inspection company that like your agent has recommended is like, we can do all the things and we're trained on all the things. Just because you're trained on all the things doesn't mean that you specialize in anything. So general home inspector for the house, awesome, perfect, they're great. But then if you have anything specialized, definitely get a specific inspector for that,
Because-
if you can.
Yeah, another common one that's similar to what Jake is saying is a structural engineer. So if the house has foundation issues, you can get a free inspection from a foundation company, but you really, really should get a structural engineer out, and that's going to cost you about another $500. So, and that varies, again, depending on the house, but that's one of the fees we don't even have on here.
So
But when you think about it, that $500, it is a lot of money. But to give you peace of mind,
Yeah.
especially like with our pool, like we did one with our pool and our septic system, like Jake said, like it gave us peace of mind moving forward. Knowing,
You did an inspection on that pool that had a leak?
yeah.
Oh,
It was
no.
right before,
it was,
before the storm.
It was before the storm.
right
Okay,
before
okay.
that winter
Yeah.
storm.
I was about to say, oops.
Well, that was
Yeah.
like 2 years ago too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that gives you peace of mind moving forward. So yes, it is a lot of money
Correct.
out of pocket up front, but it is worth it long term.
That also just brings up a perfect point because my snarkiness, something can happen after the home inspection is
Yeah.
completed. So
Right.
like if you move into your home and all of a sudden something has happened, do not assume that your inspector didn't find it. Assume that it could be a new issue. I mean, it's
Right.
like
Yeah.
it is possible it wasn't found, but it's also totally possible that your home that is 30 years old, even though you just bought it, has a new issue.
Yeah. We need to bring an inspector in.
Yeah,
for
that'd
an
be-
episode.
Do you want to say something really fast?
I do.
Well, having that inspection at Rocky Creek saved me and Pat's butt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, like
Oh, did you do a
inspections as a
pre-inspection?
seller.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
as a seller, the buyers had an inspection. They didn't ask us to cover something that the inspector caught. 2 days after closing, that went and failed, and they tried to get us to cover it.
Yeah.
But we were able to use the inspection and say,
say,
hey,
yeah.
so this isn't a buyer's
It
side,
was
but, like,
already an issue kind of thing.
Yeah.
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 And so that saved our butts on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just on both sides of the spectrum, it's good to have the
Yeah.
inspection.
Yeah.
And I would do the general inspection first before you have an electrician,
Right.
all the
Yeah.
people out, because I've had buyers like want to have the HVAC tested, everything. Like it doesn't make any sense to hire those people before you have your general inspection, because
Don't
wait to
spend
see
money
what
you
they
don't have
say.
to spend.
Yeah, and especially with the structural engineer, like wait to see what the inspector says. If he needs, if he thinks that he needs to be evaluated, then hire that engineer.
I would definitely agree with that, unless it's like obvious.
Yeah.
Like I know when we walk through houses, sometimes I'm like, I would definitely get a structural engineer just
Yeah.
because I'm not a foundation expert. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
and neither is the inspector.
I think we should
but they
have a
can-
whole home
Yeah,
inspection
that
episode.
would be good.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
We'd have to pay him for an inspection time. Is the sad
You
thing,
think so?
probably. No, I'm
He's
just
so
kidding.
busy.
Yeah, he's.
Let's say I
He's
know
done
I
like
have
3
Several of us use them. I think you're
Yeah.
the only one that doesn't.
I don't
now.
even know who you're
I'm
talking about.
obsessed
But
with
I
it.
have
He
my
does
guy
this
that I
track.
really
He's the
like.
best.
He does a track talk, and it's like his
Maggie and I might have a crush on him.
yeah, he explains everything so
Jake
just
probably
beautifully,
does too.
and like
No,
okay, so like
no.
he breaks down like one of his slogans is like I educate, not intimidate. What?
Nothing.
Giggle box is over here.
So
I don't know.
especially with first time home buyers, like he just what? Did I say something?
We're only
No.
episode 2 of season 3, and you've already. I know.
Oh,
I
okay.
know. That's why as soon as I said that, I didn't
Okay.
realize, and I realized who you were talking about. 'Cause
Okay.
I didn't know who you're talking about.
So
I don't know who the inspector is. So
he also does like a summary bullet.
I think most
point
do.
list. Well, yeah, no, it's just like. Well, and he also explains like okay.
He's very educational. That's all we have to say. He's
Yes.
very
Yeah.
educational. We're gonna wrap
And
this one
keep
up.
in mind,
Let's wrap it up.
whenever you do get an inspection, keep in mind they're inspecting the home as if it was built today. So if you're, buying a 1970s home,
Yeah.
codes have changed. Even if you bought a home in
Yeah.
2020, a brand new house,
Yeah.
codes have changed since then.
Yeah, let's do an inspection episode.
Yeah.
I feel like
Okay.
that's what we
Okay,
need
and
to
then
do.
after the inspection is the appraisal fee. So this is between $500 and $700. This is paid. We talked about this a little bit. But
Yeah.
This is paid at time of service, usually estimated in closing cost
Yeah.
sheet from the lender.
Yeah, so the lender, we ran that in the closing cost sheet that we just gave you guys, but we also have it in here as something to pay at the time of service, because even though the lender accounts for it in their closing cost sheet to give you an idea of what you're bringing, it is usually paid at the time of service, but could be paid at closing, just depends on the
Yeah.
lender.
Jake,
So-
you want to talk about the last one?
Yeah, so home warranty. So this is something that you pay, and it's gonna. I always explain that insurance is gonna cover like structure on your property. Home warranty. I think we talked about this recently. Covers like appliances, and there's a service like a.
You gave a
HVAC
story.
Services. I know, yeah. So the best thing that I can explain is like our house flooded. Insurance handled all the flood damage, but it was a water heater that like burst and leaked the entire day. Home warranty actually paid to cover or paid to replace the.
Water heater.
I'm so lost now.
Yeah.
Paid to cover my water heater. And so yeah, so
And
home warranty.
insurance covered the damage.
Yeah, so insurance covered damage, but the home warranty actually covered like the actual replacement of like the water heater
Right.
itself, which insurance did not. So so it's something that again you're going to pay for up front. It's a 1-year term that can vary actually quite a bit in price.
Right.
We have $450 to $750 on here. I've actually seen like some of the newer ones. So like the companies are actually going up to like above $1,100 or $1,200 depending
Wow.
on types of appliances that are included in like what all they're covering. They're also typically going to ask for a copy of the inspection now.
Oh, really?
I've had
Really?
2 that are sort of asking for it
Oh.
because they
Good
want to
and
know the condition of like the HVAC and the appliances that
You
they're
don't
covering.
have to give it to them, do you? Because I know that some will try, and some insurance will try to like
Right.
ask for it. I feel like we got to talk about that in
Yeah.
the inspection episode, but
Yeah.
we don't normally do it. But yeah, I think I always ask for $600
Yeah.
if I'm asking the sellers to pay part of that, because that is something the sellers could potentially pay. But most likely, if they're not, then just be expecting, like Jake said, $450 to $750.
It's also not a requirement.
It's not, but it's so worth
It is,
doing.
yeah,
It's,
I was
it's
gonna say.
another
Highly
piece of mind.
recommended.
Correct,
Yeah. Okay, then there's 2 other fees. Now these 2 fees that we're going to talk about, right?
And there's
And
more.
there's
But
more.
wait,
Well,
there's more.
But the
Yeah.
good thing with these 2 fees that we're going to tell you about, you pay them up front or once we execute the contract. These actually get credited back to you at closing towards all these closing costs that we've already have thrown your way.
Yes. Well, if you move forward, the earnest money you're always going to get credited back to you if you terminate or move forward. But if you move forward, which if you're at the closing table, you're going to get this option money back. But
Yeah.
if you terminated, that
Yeah.
option fee would not.
So
go
the
back.
2 fees, are the earnest money and the option money. So earnest money, someone want to explain what earnest money is?
This just shows that in good faith you do really intend to purchase the home. So it's what's called consideration legally in the contract. So although both sides are signing and you're saying that you're going to buy the home, you need to put up something up front. That's called consideration, as like proof that you are planning on purchasing the home. That can vary from like 1% to 3% of the purchase price.
be more.
It could be even more if you're in a
If
certain
this-
market.
If this is your dream all-out house and you can't live without it, I would say make your offer stronger and go a little bit higher.
Mine, I just had a 10% one the other day.
Wow, I've had that before too, which I had it was a 10%, was it one? I think it was a 10% option fee or something like that. It was like bananas.
And this shows the sellers how bad you want it, because within 3 days, you're giving this check to them and showing them like, hey, not only do I have the money, which I think it shows that, but it also saying like, I love your house so much that I'm going high.
Yeah. So it's negotiable. There's not like a standard. So when Jake says 1 to 3%, we're just going off of what we see kind of being the industry standard at that time with the market. And then like Brandie's saying, the more you put down, the more serious your offer looks to the seller. So
definitely.
Okay, and the next one is the option money.
Yes.
And this right now is normalizing. It has been kind of all
crazy
over the place. So the option money, we are lucky in the state of Texas that once you go under contract, if you have an option period, that's really your option to purchase the home. So it gives you kind of like a set number of days where the home is no longer on the market, kind of, but you're really doing your due diligence to figure out if it's really going to be the right house for you. Forward. That's going to be where when you do get your inspection done, if you have any specialty inspections done, all that, and if you need to negotiate repairs, that all happens during that option period. Yeah. So if that happens and you guys, and both sides can figure it out and come to the same terms, then you do move forward, and that option then falls off basically. But the option does in contract, but the money then of course still goes towards the transaction.
And so
it's hard to say too what we're seeing right now, because I feel like it was
insane.
There was some in the craziness of the market, people doing no option period
or thousands.
And I feel like we should explain both the amount and the number of days are both negotiable. Right. So there's two different things that you can negotiate on those.
Yeah. Let's say you did a 3-day option for $5,000.
Wow,
it's crazy.
Yeah, so and we used to be able to do like $100 for 7 days.
I just did $150. I got it accepted.
I'm doing 150 days for how many days?
7 days.
Yay!
I've been doing 7 days.
This is good though. This is what we need to see, because the 5 days or 3 days for $5,000 is what we were seeing last summer. Yeah, and you have to call your inspector, get an inspection, and negotiate within 3 days. Yeah. And it's just wild. So it is good that it's calming down.
Yeah, it's great.
I think the $100 for 7 days used to be very common. And then, during the crazy, I was seeing, I think I was doing more like $500 to $1,000 for like a 5-day option, which actually, the more I think about it, even buy and sell side, like I feel like that's reasonable. If you're buying a $400,000 house, if you think about overall like how much money the price of the home.
I agree with you.
I think a $500 option is not unreasonable.
I think
right now
that's crazy, but
right now I'm doing about $250.
Yeah.
But think about, you're putting $100. Like I'm not saying $100 is nothing.
House for a week, basically.
Right. You're basically taking the house off the market for a week for $100.
For sure.
You just be like, whatever if I back out. So if you buy $500 or $1,000, you're gonna double think, should I be backing out because there's a tiny little nick in the paint of the wall.
Well, and as a seller too, like $150, like that would not be enough.
I think it depends on how much you like the house.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there have been times where we've had clients that are like maybe not in love with the house, but they got to find something, and this one's good enough, or they think it may be good enough. So, but they're in a situation that was more so in the crazy market. It's kind of you have to take what you can get. I think now like a higher one is for a large number of days is okay. But still, if you go into it thinking like, I really love the house, but there's a couple things I'm not sure about, and those inspections will make or break this offer, then I would offer a lower number.
Absolutely. I mean, on the buy side, you do want that to be lower, and on the sell side, you want it to be higher. I think we talk about all the time, like, it depends. What, are you on the buy side or are you on the listing side?
Yeah, for sure.
What you want to see. So.
And what's the budget? And it's all negotiable. So
yeah.
I think, too, something to note for this is we did this off of no HOA fees either.
Yeah.
So HOA...
You know what I did?
400.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So I did include, I know we haven't even talked about, so wait, we didn't even talk about, like, resale certificate for HOA. But there's more.
There's more.
Yeah, so there's other things I think we're not like we're forgetting. It just every transaction's so different. So if there is an HOA, there's usually like what's called a resale certificate. Right now, they used to be kind of all over the board on what an HOA would charge for that, but they actually just changed the rule that an HOA cannot charge more than $395 for a resale certificate. So now we have a better idea of what that charge looks like. But there's also miscellaneous fees that an HOA can charge for the transfer part of transferring it from the seller's name to the buyer's name.
And that truly is the Wild Wild West, I feel like.
Yeah.
They do charge whatever they want to on that.
Yeah, they make their money. I think most HOAs make their money when you sell your house.
But again, how much of those fees as a buyer you're paying is negotiable. So you'll have an addendum that says, minus the resale certificate, the other fees you'll only pay up to a certain amount.
So much, yes. You kind of have an idea on the buy side.
Yeah, and again, on the seller side, you want to see that number be real high to take care of everything, and on the buyer side, you want it to be like $50 nickel.
I did that the other day, and I always have to like remind myself. I was just telling you this, Mariana. Like, I always have to remind myself which side you want it to be lower, higher.
Yeah.
It was me. I thought you and I talked about it.
We did, and then for one of them, we've both.
Then she called me or something about it.
Right. Well, I mean,
she's going around and asking
double
multiple
asked.
people.
I would too.
It was a different transaction.
I think it was a totally different transaction.
And we had already been like texting about something else. But yeah, because when you work with both sides, it's like you gotta.
Yeah. Okay, so that is kind of an idea on what to expect for out-of-pocket expenses, what to bring to closing, basically what you need to bring in order to buy the house. So now let's break down what a monthly payment could look like. Again, going back to our scenario, this is for a $400,000 house, 5% down with an interest rate of 5.25. I can get into super detail on the property taxes and all that, but let's just break it down for them really quick, and then we'll talk about how that varies. So there's going to be 2, 3, 4. I had to literally just count 5. There's 5 parts to this payment in this scenario, because there is also what's called an HOA, and they're not putting 20% down. So the first part of this payment is going to be the principal and the interest. So when we talk about like PITI, this is the PI. So principal and interest, what you're paying towards your loan, and what you're paying in interest. This is going to be obviously usually the highest part or largest part of your monthly payment. In this scenario, you're looking at about $2,100.
And this is for this is not for an adjustable rate, obviously.
Fixed rate.
Yes, this is for a fixed rate loan.
Yeah.
It's important. So that number is consistent throughout your loan. Like
that will not change.
Right. The next one is homeowners insurance, which in this scenario would be around $227.
Yep.
And that can vary from year to year.
Definitely.
And that's something too that like if, after year 1, your insurance company comes back and says, we're increasing your amount for the year, you can always go to another.
You can shop it around.
Yeah, you can shop it around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling now. I'm sorry.
The next one is monthly property tax. And in this situation, it's $910. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Actually, I was going to do it.
Let's do it now. Let's talk about property taxes.
Dig in here. Okay, so property taxes vary by city, county, like all that good stuff. So you could look at a $400,000 house in, let's say, Forney versus a $400,000 house in Euless, and everything else could be the exact same down payment, same insurance, everything like that could be the exact same, except for the tax amount could be different. So you could have 2 different monthly amounts for the same house or same cost of home if it's in 2 different cities or counties.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Forney one is higher, because their ISD tax is so high.
In the mud. Oh my God. I just had sellers sell and their taxes.
Now let's talk about mud.
Gosh, yeah. But their taxes in Murphy are significantly lower.
Yeah.
The sale price significantly higher. Their taxes are still way less than their $345,000
and I think it's important to know that property taxes will also change.
Yes.
This is not something that in 30 years it's going to look the same as it did on closing day. Or you might even get to the end of the year and you didn't pay enough into your escrow, and so because the city did something different, I think there's no way to really tell you what's going to happen with property taxes.
So I guess the point of all that is saying that like when we give you this bottom line number of like what the monthly payment is for this house currently, that may not be your monthly payment even next year.
Right.
Both numbers could adjust. Insurance and tax amount could adjust.
Yeah.
And it will continue to fluctuate throughout the years.
Yeah, for sure.
You're not going to have the same payment for the rest of your life.
And something we have in Texas that will help you with the property taxes is your homestead exemption. That's something that as your realtor we will help you walk through. But property taxes are are just kind of another beast.
Yeah. I feel like that's a whole episode. Well, I don't know.
Texas has the highest property taxes of any state or something like that.
Well, because we don't pay income tax.
I know, but I want to know a crazy thing. I'll find this story and we'll post it. But it took Californians and Texans, because California's like famous for like having like worse taxes.
Right.
Texans actually pay more in taxes than Californians do.
I believe it.
Wow.
Well, and as your home appreciates, your taxes are going to go up.
Yeah.
Well, and this monthly property market. Yeah, this monthly property tax amount that we estimated here being $910 a month. So that right there is estimated off of a sales price of $400,000. Now, usually what you pay in taxes, what your assessed value is, and what you pay your taxes off of is usually less than what your home is worth and what you paid for it, because the goal is to try to get that down as much as possible. Yeah. But when we run estimates, we always estimate off of the sales price of the home, just in case the property taxes do go up to market value, or just to show you kind of worst case scenario. So I would say that for 910 seems really high, but that's again worst case scenario.
Another time to look at this is if you are buying new construction, sometimes, depending on the title company or the lender, they don't always do the property tax calculations correctly. Sometimes they'll go off of your previous year, which that was an unapproved lot and it was worth like $50,000 or $60,000, and now you've put down a $400,000 house on it, and they will sometimes. I've seen it. I had to catch it for one of my closings. Yeah. They did the taxes off of the unapproved lot. I was like, why are they paying $72? And I'm like, no, this can't be right. And they were like, oh, we did off the unapproved lot value. And
I always remind my clients that at closing and tell them make sure you're saving an additional $200, $300 a month, putting it into account, because you're going to be short. I just had a client call me last week about this, and they didn't set it aside, and I was like,
You can. The title company will readjust. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of them will.
The title company or the... no. I'm talking about the monthly payment part of it, after closing. Yeah.
But they should be able to go back to the title company that they closed at. D.R. Horton will go back and
If you catch it before closing... The lender will say we did off of the unapproved. Do you want us to do it off of what we think the approved will be?
For some reason, they couldn't in this scenario. I don't know why.
So I've had it caught, and they were able to change it. Because we always talk
about it, and I always talk to the lender and make sure that they double explain that to the client.
It was with one of the large builders. It was their lender. It wasn't my client, actually. I went to a closing for another agent, and we caught it at closing.
Oh, wow.
Or no, we caught it, I got the closing estimate the day before closing or something.
But there's also always so many numbers being thrown at the client that I know that they've probably heard it 3 or 4 times, but they just... there's so many numbers, and they're so excited about moving into their house, so it's that's what they're focused on.
Definitely.
Okay, and then the next part of this monthly payment is what's called PMI. So this is your
private mortgage insurance.
Private mortgage insurance. There's so many acronyms. Private mortgage insurance. So because this scenario, they did not put 20% down and it's a conventional loan, they do have PMI that's about $200 a month. Now with conventional loans, once you've paid in and your loan to value reaches 79% or 80%, right in that mark, this PMI will drop off from your monthly payment, because then at that point it's as if you had put 20% down originally.
Right.
You have to remind them to drop it off.
No, it will automatically do it at some point. It will automatically drop, I think, closer to 78%.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it at the 20, the 80%, you have to call them.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can do it the month
there's
up.
Something
there's a mark on usually in the amortization sheet of what month
when it drops off.
Yeah.
And then with FHA, you always...
It's for the life of the loan until you refi.
You can refi to a conventional,
Yeah. But if you do put 20% down, this is kind of, I think, why everyone thinks you have to put 20% down. But if you do put 20% down, you don't have to pay this PMI. So you would be
saving $200 a month.
And you'll hear, some financial advisors say PMI basically is a ripoff, and you should absolutely not buy a home until you can get the 20%. That fee that you're paying, it's worth it in the end, because that's what is enabling you to get into that house. Probably not a year, years ahead of what it could take if you were trying to save that money. Because you have to think you may put a little nest aside and keep saving and trying to get to that 20%. Life will happen, and it's really easy to take that big chunk of money and spend it. Whereas like this is it's put in monthly. It's a smaller bite to eat, basically.
Right. Yeah. Well, and if you can do this, and this is what we did when we bought our house, you can pay it up front. So like we ended up paying, I forgot how much exactly it was. It was like $6,000 or something.
Yeah.
So we ended up paying this $6,000 just because we wanted a comfortable monthly payment. So even though it would have been the same and we could have just done it, we were like, well, we have the funds. Let's just go ahead and, put it in and get rid of it kind of thing. So we did that, and it is an option as well. Yeah. So, all right.
The final thing. Drum roll.
It's kind of one of the lowest amounts.
Go ahead, Maggie.
The last part of your monthly payment.
HOA.
Yeah.
If there's an HOA. So,
and this may or may not actually make it into your monthly payment. Sometimes, like I know for us, like we pay an annual amount
or something.
Yeah, we pay an annual amount directly to the HOA. So we just put it in here to kind of like be something to kind of account for and budget for, right? But it's not actually part of our monthly payment.
Yeah, so. HOA condos is like $300 something.
Oh yeah. So that makes a big difference in your monthly payment.
Yeah, especially if you're doing a condo, HOA can vary a lot. Yeah. Like even so, my condos. It's one community, but we're still split into two different HOA associations. I can't just, because of development, when there were developments. So there's the south and then the north.
Yep.
The north was actually developed first, ironically, and HOAs are almost double in that one because it includes all of your utilities.
Wow.
Mine are the south ones were developed a little bit later, and they were individually metered, so everything could be done separately.
Yeah.
So I like my utilities aren't rolled in, but I still have the regular HOA amount. So there's so many things to look at.
Let's say in this budgeting, we didn't even talk about budgeting for utilities. Like this is just to get the house. So which I mean, you're paying utilities.
What we talked about. It was like
rent.
The cost to like get your foot in the door. Yeah.
Right.
We could do an episode on like your all-in. What a monthly cost, like what it costs to have a home every month.
To maintain a home, maybe? Yeah. Okay, so all in.
We would scare people away if we went over like
really
quarterly pest expenses. Yeah, it depends on.
It
depends on so many things.
Yeah,
I think
handy
that's hard.
You are. Yeah. Okay, so
you're pretty
overall.
Handy.
No, Brian is very
Aren't
handy.
you good at plumbing?
Okay, the monthly payment is
going back to season 1. Yeah.
So the monthly payment is the total PITI is going to be $3,474.20.
Yeah.
And again, we did not talk about utilities, so this is just going to be your mortgage payment.
Yeah. And again, that's a scenario of $400,000, 5% down, and an interest rate, because that makes a big difference. The rates right now are, what I did was 5.25. So if you get a lower rate, obviously that PA&I go down, and so on. So.
Yep.
But that kind of gives you an idea. I think all together, though, the biggest thing, we're throwing a bunch of numbers at you guys. We're also throwing a bunch of different terms that you may not have heard of with different fees that are due. The biggest thing that you want to do, going back full circle, like what Brandie said, is talk to a lender. Have them run you, not just say, okay, how much am I qualified for, and then give you a house price. Have them run what's called a loan estimate or some sort of estimate in order for them to break down what your closing costs are and what your monthly payment is going to look like on a monthly basis. I always have clients do that before we even talk about, looking at houses, because I want to make sure that they know budget-wise they're good to go.
Yep.
I mean, if I show you a $600,000 house and then your budget's $400,000, you're gonna hate us.
Well, you're gonna get upset because every time you look at a $400,000 house, which is what you are comfortable paying in a monthly payment, but because you looked at that $600,000 house, none of them are gonna add up. So.
Right.
But
for sure.
All right, guys. I think that's it on our budgeting to buy.
Yep.
Thank you so much for
Bye,
tuning in.
guys.
We'll be
See you
back
guys.
next week.
See y'all next week.
Woohoo!
Bye.
Bye.